All right, let me just kind of guide us on this one.
No, I'd rather the Holy Spirit do that.
Let the Holy Spirit guide me into guiding us.
Okay, that's fair.
Welcome back to Modern Christianity. I'm here with Luke Nuno, and on this episode, we kind of want to dive into relationships, and I think Luke is a good example. And I'm not trying to dog on him, but of doing it wrong versus knowing that it wasn't wrong, or not knowing that it was wrong at that time because he was inside of the relationship versus.
Oh, this is crazy. Nah, you set me up. That's crazy. Nah.
What?
Nah. Let's just talk about relationships. What about that? Period. That was a crazy intro. What was that, bro? Nah.
All right, welcome back to Modern Christianity. This is my guest, Luke Nuno. I've had him on a few times, and today we kind of want to talk about relationships, what it means to be a Christian in a relationship, what it means to be a Christian whenever you're single, and how you should pursue women, or if you even should pursue women. So right now, Luke's situation, he's single, and I'm in a relationship. So we kind of get both sides of that coin between the two of us. So let's just start off by kind of giving your situation, and then I'll give my situation, and we'll kind of go from there. How long have you been single, et cetera, et cetera?
I've been single for 2 months now.
Okay, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, pretty fresh.
Okay, and is it okay if I ask what happened? Like why did you become single? What? Because I kind of know your backstory, so I kind of know you started being on fire for God. Did that have to do with anything leading up to you becoming single? Like how did that transition from being in a relationship go?
I don't think I was close enough with God in my relationship. That was the problem.
Okay.
So, yeah, it just kind of looked like a lot of resentment towards the end. And I think that wasn't anything in particular with my relationship, like me and my ex, but I think it had to do with my relationship with me and God, and not pursuing that more than what I was in at the moment.
So you kind of felt like in your relationship you weren't pursuing God. Do you think that what was stopping you from doing that? What was stopping you from pursuing God? Because I mean, you could pursue God even in a relationship.
Yeah, I know, and that was the difficult thing. I think I was a little bit more consumed with trying to be the best person for her rather than being the best person for God.
Yeah. So you had your definition wrong for what it even meant to be the best person for her. Because as a Christian, we know like the best thing that I can do for someone else is be the best version of myself. I mean, if I'm going to serve my girlfriend well, then I shouldn't give her everything she wants, but I should be everything she needs. That's the best thing I can do for her.
Yeah. And honestly, I could have probably chose to do that, but I don't know what was stopping me from doing that. It's still something I think about now, but I think it had a lot to do with a lack of fellowship with like my Bible study friends. I think it had a lot to do with just like my time management, what I was doing with my time, and I mean that was my choice though. So I mean,
yeah,
it's neither her fault nor my fault. It was just.
Well, how long did y'all date?
Like 3 years.
Okay, so if you date someone for 3 years and you're like one person in that relationship for those 3 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, I want to live for God. Well, it's kind of hard to change that for yourself unless that person is like fully on board with you, exact same like motive. So that's kind of difficult to do in a 3-year relationship, because you kind of need to go through like a period of time where you're figuring yourself out, because it's such a drastic change. So I don't think it's wrong that you decided to become single, because it gives you that opportunity to work on yourself, to actually become that person. And maybe that's the best thing that you could have actually done for your ex-girlfriend in the long run. Who knows what the future brings. But it's just, you have to make sure you prioritize, hey, I'm going to work on myself to become the version that God wants me to be. And it's not like there's a finish line, but there's a trajectory. And it's hard to get on that trajectory if you're stuck in your old ways. And oftentimes, that's what long relationships do to people, is they're like, I can't change, I'm stuck. It would be hypocritical if I became this person, because that's not what this person signed up for. Like,
yeah. And I think there's times where people have to go through what I call now a pruning season. Like, there's things that you have to cut off for more fruit to grow. And it's sometimes sucks. Like, it could be your career that you got to get rid of, your job, I guess those are the same things, but your relationships,
whatever it may be.
It's necessary sometimes, and it sucks, but shoot, there's something better that comes out of it.
Yeah.
If you do it in God's will. In
God's will, exactly. So now that you're kind of in that pruning season, what does it look like, as you've kind of alluded to? I mean, there's some pain in it. Like, it's not always just this beautiful, I'm living for God now. It's like, oftentimes living with God, whenever you're pruning, that's things that you grew fond of, whether it's your career, whether it's a woman, or for a woman, whether it's a man. Like, you have attachment to those things. How has that felt? The pruning aspect felt?
It's scary at first, like, you're comfortable in what you're doing, and you want to just keep doing it because you feel good in that moment. You're comfortable, but there's you got to get uncomfortable sometimes. And I'm kind of keeping it a little bit practical now, just I guess to relate to more people, I guess. But I mean, you got to take that leap sometimes, and you never know what's going to come out of it. But
like, whenever you're faced with that decision, it's the scariest thing.
Yeah.
Because there's so much unknown. You could feel like a fool if you just, for example, like with a girl, it's like, if you break up with her and then you realize, like, a month later, you're like, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. That was a girl I should have been with. Like, well, you just kind of shot yourself in the foot there. And so there's that part of the unknown, but then also, like, the changing your life aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were in a routine with that girl, if you were in a routine in a relationship, and then you decide to go up and change your whole life, that's got to be scary. I mean, physically moving locations or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
There's just so much unknown in there.
Yeah, and I have a daughter as well, and that's another thing that I have to focus on a lot more than just pouring into someone that, I don't know, I wouldn't say not appreciate, because I used to say that a lot, like I'm unappreciated, but...
Maybe non-fruit bearing?
Yeah, it's just stagnant, like, just at the same thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I have to raise my daughter. It's like, she's growing, she's trying to figure out her way in the world. She's 4 now, but, like, she still has a lot of growing to do, obviously, but...
Yeah, and you need to become the best version of yourself to be able to be the best father for her.
Yeah, and I want her to see what a Christian man should look like, and set that example, set a high standard for her for when she grows up, and one day I have to hand her off to someone. I want her to be fulfilled already by my love, from God's love through me to her, and that's like a very important thing in my life right now.
Okay, so as you're trying to become that person, and this kind of ties into my side of the story, but you said pruning season. I think of it, which I think that's great. I actually love that. I think of it as monk mode, which is kind of like, I have to go away from people and I have to focus on myself, because monk mode to me symbolizes more than just like being in your word or getting rid of certain things. It's like, I need to build things. I need to find out in like the inner side of myself, of who I am, why am I doing the things I'm doing, what do I want to pursue. So what have you been doing in this like monk mode period? Because you kind of got through the pruning season where you cut some things out. Now how are you building?
I wouldn't say I believe in iron sharpens iron. So I surround myself with people that are believers and push me to grow in God's word. Like, I think that's the most important thing that we should be doing, is staying in our word and learning those things from each other. And, you know, instead of trying to have our own interpretation on the Bible, to really dig deep in the real meanings of the word. And I can't do that alone. I don't know. Some people can, but for me, I think it's important to surround yourself with more believers rather than going off by yourself.
Well, that's to clarify. I think that does fall into monk mode, and I'll give you an example through my life, like the way I did it. So I was dating a girl for 9 or so months. And I just kind of came to that realization of, man, this is like, there's nothing to this. This relationship isn't going anywhere. I don't see myself marrying this woman. It was more of like party, fun, like just kind of short-term gratification style relationship. Mm-hmm. And there was no true substance on my side, at least. This way I felt. And so I decided to break up with her, and then whenever I did that, I went into it was like a 2 or 3 year period of, I'm going to separate myself from that lifestyle. So that's kind of what I meant by monk mode, of like being outside of the world. Like monks, they go to a monastery and then they're surrounded with other monks. And so they're in community still. It's not like they're by themselves, they're in community, but they're in the right community, preparing themselves to go back out into the world and be that version that they were building inside the monastery outside of the monastery. So that's kind of the way I viewed it, was like, I'm going to separate myself from drinking, I'm going to separate myself from smoking, from partying, from my friends who do all that. Not that I don't want to be their friend anymore, but that I want to live differently. And if they are putting those temptations in front of my face, directly or indirectly, I'm more likely to fall into that, so I'm going to stay away. And then, while I did that, I built community around Christians as well. So, like, started serving in the church, started meeting with people of the church, and then pouring into me, like having a mentor and mentoring others. That's kind of how I went about it. And then also, of course, like being in your word and learning about that. But the reason I'm asking about this period, is because you're fresh into this. I call it monk mode period. You call it iron sharpens iron. I think both are perfect examples. How has this period been? What have you noticed over these last 2 months? Because for me, it was a lot of growth really fast in my walk. Like whenever I separated myself, it was like, it was so bright and beautiful. Like whenever I separated myself from certain things. So what have you noticed in the 2 months that you've been single and kind of in this stage of growth?
Man, that's kind of like a big question, because I mean, it's only been 2 months, but there has been a lot of clarity. But I would say,
do you know any like clarity off the top of your head, like clarity that you've seen? I know that's kind of like hard to pull up in a moment's notice, but
yeah, I feel like I haven't given myself enough time to to look at that, trying to look at it as like an outside perspective. But I've been told by people that I just seem more awake, I guess, like not so distracted, or so
you're present.
Yeah, like I'm more in tune with when I'm around people rather than focused on something else.
I agree with that.
And I've learned a lot just through I don't know, dude.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think this would be good for the people listening. What's the practical side? And I can touch on what I did on my practical side as well, but what was the practical side, like spiritual disciplines? What have you changed in your daily routine from whenever you were in a relationship and not really focused on your relationship with God versus now outside of the relationship, what has changed in how you pursue God on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I've started going to the gym. I've started skating more.
I think going to the gym is an underrated one where a lot of people would go, well, that's not serving God. It's like, yeah, I think that is. I think that if you're trying to become the best version of yourself, that includes health.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. And it's really good for your mental health to be going to the gym.
Yeah. So I started going to the gym.
Okay, so gym, skating's hobby. So like enjoying what you do.
A lot of fellowship, a lot of reconnecting with old friends.
What was that like?
New job. Reconnecting with some old friends. It's actually been like positive and negative because there's been a group of friends that I've reconnected with that I would say is a little bit more of a distraction group of friends, like like smoking and going out places, mainly to go out to even reconnect with more people. Like I've gone out and not drank or done none of that. You've seen it yourself. But I like to go places just to reconnect with some people. But yeah, that certain group of friends probably isn't the best to like reconnect with, but I've kind of poured into like a few of them and try to I wouldn't say really preach to them, but try to show them a better side of life than what they're living now. And then I've also reconnected with other people that are like strong in their faith and have been going to Bible study, and I've joined like Manly, been going to his Bible study a lot. So even with people in my skate ministry, I've invited them over to my house, cooked for them, just hung out with people. And outside of these Bible studies, I think that was lacking a lot, was us actually linking up and getting to know each other a lot more on a personal level rather than just linking up at Bible study for a few hours. And
like actually deepening the relationships.
Yeah, like investing into that.
Yeah, but you've been dealing with the dichotomy of linking up with other people who, harsh to say, but most likely living for the world and having a heart for them, wanting to see them know Christ, not forcing it onto them, but the dichotomy I'm talking about is trying to be with them, but not living the same way they are. So being in their presence, which, hey, maybe that's going to a bar.
Yeah.
And yet still being different from them.
Yeah.
Trying to show them, maybe not like forcing, trying to show them, but like, hey, maybe they'll see there's something different about me. Like, hey, why are you not drinking? Or like, why do you do the things you do? Maybe they see Christ through you.
Yeah. And it was actually kind of funny because I met one of their girlfriends recently. Like, we all went out and ate and stuff. And she said, "Is this the friend you told me about that's very godly?" I was like, okay, I got that stamp now. Okay. But yeah, it was cool. Like, they realize that and they respect that, and they don't force me to try to step outside of that, and that's why I can enjoy that. But
at the same time, the temptation is there, and you're like, oh well, I do also want to smoke with you or something. But it's like, how would that look to them if I'm joining on what they're doing? Like, the temptation of falling down to their level is there, but you're trying to live above their level to have them rise up to where you're at.
Exactly.
Or to where you're trying to go, rather.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. For me, whenever I went through that, it was like... Some of them I just can't. Like, some of them I just can't even surround myself with because it's just...
But yeah, go ahead. Like, it's just like too...
irreparable.
Yeah, well, like irreversible, I guess. They're just too deep into it, like casting your pearls towards swine. Like, it's just, you can try to have a semi deep talk, and it's just rejected, and I get mocked for it, or not even bringing up any type of Christianity or anything, just morals, and people hate that are already too deep into that.
Well,
that life.
I agree and I disagree, and the part I disagree with is like, it may not have the effect, or maybe you're not trying to make it have an effect, but it may not have the effect that you wish it would in that moment. But things tend to dwell on people, and they dwell on it, and they're like, okay. And then maybe sooner or later, something happens in their life, and they think of you and the way you lived and how it was different and how you got mocked for it. But they think, well, damn, maybe he was right this whole time. And so you should always keep that door open. I'm not saying necessarily go and make that your ultimate goal to just evangelize those people.
It wasn't even as a goal or anything. It's just not even, like I said, no type of Christianity conversation, none of that. It's just basic morals of just being a good person and what it looks like to be a good person. And it's just when there's certain people that are so deep into that lifestyle, they just completely brush it off. Now, I agree, like, talking about it, when they get to that point in their life where they do want to change and they think of me or someone else that has tried to lead them that way, yeah, I agree with that. Like, maybe once or twice, but I don't know. Like, I brought this whole thing up just because there's just certain people I can't surround myself with, just because they're in such a deep relation with the world to where you could do extremes. Like, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with a crackhead, like, if you're hanging out with a crackhead all the time, then you're more likely to do crack. Like, I'm just using the extreme as an example of, like, there's obviously people that you should pour into, but that you shouldn't surround yourself with. You should surround yourself with other Christians, brothers and sisters of Christ. And that's who you should surround yourself with. But you should also go out into the world and have a mission of hope of, like, I'm not going out to force my religion, force my faith on anyone, but I want to be a light in a dark place, because someone may see that light and for the first time their eyes are open and like, whoa, why is this guy different? Or God may be working on them that day and used you to help them see who he is. And so, yes, I completely agree. Do not surround yourself with those people. Do not make it a habit to be in community with them, but always have a heart for them and keep your door open. Yeah. And we're back. I was going to say about kind of what I did whenever I kind of went through a similar season in my life and the way I separated people. Why do you get so close? Because my back hurts.
So what I did was I had a lot of friends who drank and partied, like I said, and so I separated myself from them. And whenever I came back, so it was probably like 6 months of like not hanging out with those friends. And whenever I came back, I wasn't drinking, and that's like all they ever did. Go to a baby shower, drink. Go hang out and watch a game, drink. Go whatever it was. Every single activity is just based around drinking, which you do a whole podcast on that alone, how alcohol has just ruined our society, and it's just so prevalent, alcoholism, and it's not really noticed because it's so common that like these people are addicted to alcohol. And I fall into that too. Like, and I love going to the beach and having a drink. Like, it makes the day more fun, but falling into it all the time is just, it's so bad for you. So anyways, and whenever I came back and started hanging out with them, man, I got ridiculed too. And like, to me, I was like, oh, I'm doing something right. Like, if they're hating on what I'm doing and I notice that they're living wrong, then I'm like, oh, they're hating on what I'm doing because what I'm doing is right. Like, maybe they weren't, maybe it's not like, intentionally thinking like, hey, I'm jealous of this guy for living the way I wish I lived. But like, that's kind of how I interpreted it, was like, they wish that they could not drink for 6 months or not drink for a year or whatever. But they won't make that commitment. They don't have that commitment to themselves. They don't have that commitment to God. So it really gave me encouragement to continue down that path, continue down the path of righteousness, and that led me to be more in my word, to seek more of God, and I fell into a trap of am I better than these people? Like, it was kind of like something that I noticed. I was like, I feel like I'm being self-righteous right now. Like I'm looking down on them whenever I should be trying to lift them up. Not that I'm above them, but that my actions and behavior at that time weren't the same as theirs. But I fell into that trap of thinking I was something special or thinking I was better than them. And so through that, I kind of like prayed through that, and God kind of like humbled me, saying like, you know, you're nothing special. But to bring it back to relationships, during that time, I told myself like, I'm not going to pursue any women. I don't want to date anybody right now, even if like I'm not nothing. And so I went through that for probably like a year to 2 years of that mindset. And then after 2 years, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to where I could be in a relationship and not be sinful in that relationship. Like, still pursue God while I'm in that relationship, because that was a struggle for me in relationships. I would make it to where I would follow that person, not like, you know, brown nosing, but like I pursued them more than I pursued God. And so I finally felt like I was ready to do that, and I kind of had the mentality. I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go look for a girl, but if there's a girl that I think, hey, I should date her, like I love her values, she lives for God, then I would never deny it. Like, I'm not going to turn that down. I'm going to pursue it if it's something that's presented to me. And that's kind of what happened with my current girlfriend. Was I was going to the gym, she worked at the gym, and we would look at each other for like a month. And I'd look at her, she'd look at me, I'd look away, and then I'd look back at her, she'd look away. And it was like, I could tell, like, there was tension there. And finally, one day, I just got the nerve to go and ask her on a date. And we went on a date, and whenever I started dating her, I told her, I said, like, this was like the rule that I set for our relationship. I said, look, I live for God, and if you get in the way of that, then we're done. Like, I can't date you if you stop me from the path that I'm trying to pursue in my relationship with God. So setting those boundaries in a relationship has been so great for our relationship, because she knows where my heart's at. Even though I may mess up, I may fail at times, she knows, hey, we have a godly relationship. I'm trying to build him up, he's trying to build me up. And since then, I mean, our relationship has been a good relationship for my growth and my relationship with God. You know, there's still temptation of sin, obviously, in this modern world. I mean, the temptation of sex is always there, but it's still been so fruitful in my walk with God. And I just want to know, as you're in this season, what's kind of like your timeline, if you even have one, on when you would be ready to date another girl, or how would that look like? Who would you pursue? Like, do you kind of have an idea of a girl in your head as you're in this season of being single? Have you given thought to that, or are you just so focused on who you are and who you're trying to be?
Definitely been focused, but you know, I want to be the person that she's praying for, whoever that woman is. I want to be the person that someone is praying for to come into their life, just like I'm praying for someone to come into my life. But now, what does that look like? I would say, you know, of course, a woman of God, and, you know, beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, looking for someone that's beautiful.
No, my thought is like, should be the first thing.
Well, I don't know if it should be the first thing.
I think it should be the first thing, because you should be attracted to her first, and then you should find out, hey, does she have all the other qualities? Because if she has all the other qualities and you're never attracted to her, it's like, why even be in that relationship if you have no attraction to that person? Like,
well, the thing is, if you go first off of looks, there's always going to be someone that's beautiful as well, and that could.
But they're not going to have the same traits you're looking for. That's why I say you should be attracted, but then after attraction, you should get out of there if they don't have the traits that you want.
Yeah, yeah. But someone that doesn't. I guess this falls under being a godly woman, because I think what that looks like is depending on God's love. Well, God is love, but focusing on that, leaning on that when, sometimes I'm not perfect and not able to give that, I don't know, just emotionally independent, I guess. I don't know if that sounds kind of crazy.
Someone that finds their support from
Through
God,
yeah,
and doesn't always need you to be that support. Like, they're not placing their ultimate faith in you as a man. They're placing their ultimate faith in God as their father, and you're supposed to complement that, not supplement that.
Yeah, and because it could put a lot of pressure on, at least on me, like if I'm your main source of happiness, there's got to be something that's missing between you and your love with God,
and also you'll fail her. Like,
yeah, and then we'll both be upset. Like, oh, you're not appreciative of me, or you're not. You know what I mean? It could affect both people in that type of.
Yeah, well, you see that very commonly in marriages. You see that common in a parent's relationship with their kids. Like, they put all their faith and hope in a person or a thing, whether it's money or a car, whatever, job, career, and that thing will always fail you. Because it's not a God. Like, that's the caution of idolship. Like, whenever you idolize someone in a relationship, they're gonna fail you because they're not big enough for you to idolize. Like, it has to be God.
Yeah.
He's big enough for you to place that trust and that faith on, because He will never fail you. Whereas money, cars, women, men, whatever it is, will always fail you. There will always be failure in there.
So I guess a more clear way to put it is, I don't want to be your idol. I don't want to be your reason that you're always happy, or your reason that you're sad, or I don't want to be that big energy in your life. I want to be able to complement someone's life and
they compliment you. Yeah. So I think that's a perfect way of putting it. A godly woman. Yeah. And a godly woman should help you to be a better godly man, and vice versa. Like, I think compliment is the perfect word. Yeah. All right. I mean, I think what I really wanted to talk about was just how we should pursue women in this world, because I think we live in a culture where it's just hookups and sex, and I think that is the same thing as idolship. It's gonna fail you. It'll never be enough. You're pursuing it for the wrong reasons, and I just wanted to see what another Christian going through this kind of walk felt like towards relationships, and how you should interact in those relationships, and what you should look for. And I think you hit the nail on the head. So.
Yeah, I think number one thing is pursue God's word, and everything will fall into place. And that's the answer from the Bible itself. Just pursue God first, and He'll guide your path.
Yeah, be a light to your feet.
Exactly.
All right, man.
Amen.
Thank you.